Today on my vlog, I'm going to teach you how to make caramel-filled cookies. I got this recipe out of a Pillsbury Bake Off cookbook, and it's one of my absolute favorites. To start with, we're going to need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 3/4 cup of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of brown sugar, 1 cup of butter or margarine, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 4 eggs, 1 cup of pecans, and 48 Rolos, or chocolate-covered caramels. Later on, you'll need a tablespoon of sugar, too. I wrote my recipe down so that I don't get my book all dirty. Okay, first things first. You take your 2½ cups of flour and your 3/4 cup of cocoa powder and your baking soda, and you mix it together in a bowl so it looks like this. See, mine's already mixed together for once. Now, once you've done that, you get a mixer, much like this one, or if you have a hand mixer, it's fine. You don't even need a mixer, but I enjoy using a mixer, so, you know. To this, we're going to add our 1 cup of butter or margarine. If the recipe calls for butter, use butter. If it calls for margarine, use margarine. If it calls for either one, doesn't matter, whichever one you prefer. I use margarine because it's about 62 cents per pound, so, you know. So you take softened margarine, and you put it in your mixing bowl. And to that, you add your sugars. I need 1 cup of white sugar, which is called granulated. You don't typically bake with powdered sugar, so when someone asks for white sugar for baking, you do this unless the recipe states otherwise. 1 cup of sugar. And I also need 1 cup of brown sugar. Now remember, when using brown sugar, you have to have it packed, which means it's all in the cup nice and tight, so if I'm going to dump it out of the cup, it'll still retain its form. And that's just how you measure brown sugar. Packed. I'm going to cream this, which means I'm going to beat it on high for about a minute or 2 until it's a really pretty color, which I'll show you in a second. Okay, this is what it looks like. See how light and colorful that is? You do this so the cookie is lighter and fluffier. Now to this, we're going to add 2 eggs. I typically crack my eggs into a separate bowl before I add them. This is because sometimes you could mess up and drop an eggshell in, or if you're using farm fresh eggs, you could have something bad in it that you don't want, like a baby chicken. To this, we're also going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla, which I'm going to eyeball, which you should never do unless you know what you're doing. Just I've cooked with vanilla and everything else long enough to know exactly what I'm looking for. Mix it thoroughly. I'm going to show you what it looks like now. See? A little bit runnier, but it looks about the same. Now I'm going to add in my dry mixture. I'm going to add it in about a cup at a time or so. About a cup at a time, like I said. And you're just going to mix it on low until it's fully combined. And I'm just adding it a cup at a time because it's easier to do that than to pour a full bowl like that. Okay. I'm going to scrape my bowl down here before I get too far along so that it all mixes thoroughly and will look pretty. I need another bowl for something. Okay, now, it's all mixed. See? I'm going to scrape my beater. Takes forever. Now, if you have a bunch of little kids running around, normally they really like dough, and as much as I hate feeding them raw cookie dough or anything like that, I will let them if I'm using pasteurized eggs, which is what I use today. But if I'm using farm fresh eggs, sorry kids. I know there's a slight chance you'll get salmonella, but I don't care. I'm not taking it. Plus, my mom never let us have cookie dough, and that was raw when we were growing up, so it'll kill you. Now, my husband, on the other hand, I can't keep him away from it. If I make this whole bowl and he's here, oh, I just have to hide it. Had to put my beater in the sink there because it's dirty. It's a very thick dough. So I'm going to use my other rubber scraper. That one's more helpful to get around my edges of my thing. My beater there. Alright, scrape down my dough. And now I need my pecans. Which I already have chopped. I actually need a whole cup of pecans. However, I only need half now and half later. I need a half a cup in my dough. I'm using a 1/4 cup measuring cup. I have to do that twice. And then in another bowl, there's why I got the bowl. Put your other half of the cup in there. And I'm going to combine those with 1 tablespoon of white sugar. It doesn't have to be exactly a tablespoon, because you're going to just be dipping the cookies in them. I'm tossing it to combine. There we go. Okay, stir in the rest of your nuts. If you're using a mixer, you cannot really stir in nuts by a stand mixer. I don't know about a hand mixer, but I know that it can damage your beaters. And so it's easier just to mix them by hand. Same goes for chocolate chips or anything else that you're mixing in that's hard. Okay, now, here comes the fun part. My hands are going to get dirty, so I'm going to take off my ring here and put it away so I don't lose it. I need some flour for my hands. You flour your hands. And then you take about a tablespoon of dough, a little too much, and you roll the ball like this. Ta-da! So you can see it, a little ball. And into that, you insert a Rolo. And you form the rest of the ball, and you roll it up again in a ball. It looks like that. Now, take a piece of parchment paper. That's what I bake on because it makes for an easier cleanup. And you dip the ball into the pecan sugar mixture. And then repeat until you get a pan full. And then you're going to bake at 375 degrees for 7 to 10 minutes. Now, my oven's a little finicky, so it usually goes either the full 10 minutes or another 4, so, you know. So, as I'm making these dough balls, I realized I didn't tell you guys, it'll take about 48 Rolos. Make sure you flour your hands in between each rolling of the dough ball, because I'll tell you what, this is a really sticky batter, but these cookies are really good. Like I said, they're out of the Pillsbury Bake Off. I'm trying to remember what winner they are. I don't really remember. But I made these once a very long time ago. And I was in junior high when I first got in this recipe book. And I hadn't read the recipe all the way through, which you should always do. Because I didn't read it all the way through, I just thought you smash the Rolo into the middle of it. Because the dough was too sticky, I thought, to roll out. Again, didn't read the whole entire recipe. And so, it looked weird at the end, but it still tasted good. But I know these are going to taste 900 times better than the normal ones. And now make sure, when you make the dough balls, that you dip them only on one side. And that one side, pecan side up, is how it says in the recipe. So you place the side there's anything on it, like this side, not this side with nuts on it, facing up. So place it so there's nothing on the bottom. Now, make sure that your dough is uniform. Because if it's not, like if you make one big cookie and a bunch of little cookies, they're not going to cook right. So you're going to have a bunch of overcooked cookies and one undercooked cookie. And that's not very tasty. I don't like that. And I know you're all probably wondering, wow, why is she doing a video blog? Well, my husband's best man from the wedding. He reads my blog from time to time. His name's Steve. I'm sure you've heard me talk about Steve. He's a great guy. And he tells me, you know, Jessica, your blog would be 100 times better if you did a video blog. Because I bet you $10 it'd be so much cooler. And people would watch it. Well, I'm not going to disagree with him, so I decided to make one. And he requested I do chocolate, which is why I did this one. He wanted me to do brownies. I told him, well, if you'd read all my blog, you know I'd already made brownies. I'm not to disagree with him, but I usually skip over video blogs when I'm looking on the internet. Our internet connection here is kind of slow, so it takes way too long to watch a video blog for me. And plus, if you watch it once and they don't have any instructions down below, then you're kind of screwed because you're like, oh great, now every time I want to make this, I gotta watch a video blog. So I'm going to continue to do both. I don't know if I'm going to continue to do this video, but I will continue to include the instructions in the text, which I thoroughly enjoy. Like I said, repeat this, and you're going to cook it at 375 for 10 minutes. So go ahead and place it in the oven. Okay, so my cookies are done, and I'm going to remove them from the oven. See? Beautiful. I'm going to add my other ones in. So it took mine 14 minutes to cook. Like I told you, my oven's weird. The heat of this next part, you let them sit on the pan for 2 whole minutes. I'm going to set the timer for, now a minute and 40. Anyway, you let it sit on the pan for exactly 2 minutes. Because if you don't, the center will fall out and then you'll have this huge gooey mess. Now, if you wanted to do a white chocolate drizzle, as I've explained in all my other blogs about when it comes to melting chocolate, double boiler method till it's creamy and smooth, then take a spoon and just go over the top. It's very technical, that drizzling noise that I just did there. Yeah. So, that's about my cookies. Well, anyway, once my 2 minutes is up, I remove them with a spatula, and I let them cool on the wiring rack until they're completely cool. If you don't, you have a mouthful of hot caramel which burns your mouth and you can't taste anything for a month. So, I suggest letting them cool all the way. But, yeah, just remove these and let them cool and then enjoy.
It was the heat of the moment, telling me what my heart meant. The heat